Hey everyone. So we'll just wait 1 minute before I will get Kenneth to join us. Um, Let me just have a look. I just brought Kenneth in. So while we're waiting for him to come in, I'm just gonna introduce who I am. I'm Gustavo, and founder and CEO of eLaunchpad. And we're a digital platform to empower individuals and entrepreneurs as well as organizations, data analytics to invest smarter. So I'm also the programming leader for the StartOut chapter in Singapore. And today we have Kenneth. Welcome, Kenneth. How are you?
I'm hot. Literally, I'm hot. Like, seriously.
I know it's super hot here in Singapore as well.
Woo!
Yeah,
Welcome, welcome to summer in in Asia.
well, it's summer
Um,
all year round here in Singapore.
right. So, how is everyone? Woo!
Yeah, so Kenneth is, as you might have already figured out, Kenneth is all the way in Hong Kong. I'm all the way here in Singapore.
Right.
We are like 4 hours flight away from each other.
Something
Um,
like that.
and I can see that you have all the boxes behind you, which are all the face masks and all of that.
No, because no, this is not like an Oprah show where okay, actually it can be, all right. Everyone gets a car, but no, actually no, everyone gets a box of face masks, all right. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
I'll
we'll make
put
it fun. We'll make it fun, all right.
that announcement later on. And
Right,
there's a little bit of a surprise at the end. But basically, what we're here is to do is this is the first recording out of Singapore. So far, I think most of the recording that our viewers have seen are from the US, and I think there are a
right.
couple from the UK. Um,
Mm,
and we're here for a conversation about the changing environment for the startups that are coming out of Asia.
mm,
And I'm super excited to be doing this with you, Kenneth, because I've known you for about a year now.
yeah,
Had some interesting conversations in the past as well. So, and you just ventured into a new sort of startup, right? Let me just give you a brief introduction. So Kenneth is not just a startup founder. He's similar to me. We both had history in the banking industry or in finance at some point in the past, and now he's an impact investor. He runs a VC. He's also a startup. He's just run a new startup which is called Family Mask, which is something that I'm super excited to want to find out more. And I think you are
okay,
also in the process of putting together a Asia Accelerator. So I'll find out a little bit.
yeah. Keep spilling the beans, sure. Right.
When do you find time to sleep at all?
Remember, I have my stem cells. Remember, so I don't need sleep, right?
Yeah, I need to get some of that secret from you. So tell us a little bit about what you are what is the origin of Family Mask, and how did you start with this project?
Well, firstly, again, thank you to Start Out for having us. Again, I'm very honored to be part of the first ever Asia panel in some sense. It's by the way, this is my real voice. I am not trying to sound more mature. I've had this low baritone voice since I was in high school, so this is not an act, right? But all joking aside, right? I think the purpose of this so-called chat is really to share again, what is impact, right? A lot of people think impact is doing good. And yes, it is a part of doing good. But I think within the startup community and all the talent inside our ecosystem, I think we can do a lot more. So what we ended up doing, so Asia is, I'm not going to go too crazy on COVID because everybody is up to here with COVID messages. But
So you can't keep
imagine
next conversation without mentioning COVID these days.
Yeah, that would be great, right? I mean, imagine in January when the world is still relatively asleep in all this. We probably saw I wouldn't say a startup opportunity, but more like a way seeing the trends and the data that surgical mask at the FDA approved level would be something quite important for the world in terms of supply and demand. So actually, even in January, we started master planning having a PPE, which is personal protective, equipment type of company. So in March, we actually launched a trading platform where we connected global manufacturers to communities in need. But we started also thinking, well, if we're connecting all the manufacturers, and then we see the price differences. So, knowing as a manufacturer of face masks right now, we know exactly the cost of making a face mask, what we call X works, which is straight from the factory. And then we see the prices being given to not just families or individuals, but to hospitals and healthcare centers. And I don't want to use, brutal terms, but, that is not cool. Like, you cannot, in times of crisis, charge people 10 times whatever price it is, just, to, monetize on people's insecurities, or, they're scared, they're feeling a bit lost. So, you know what? As a VC or impact venture, we like to call ourselves, we should actually get to work. And we got a few passionate and talented individuals together. And, in 2 months, this little bear was born. Yeah, so again, Family Moss, the name came from the fact that, the whole world is a family. So if we can honestly, do our best and ensure that everyone gets, surgical masks when they need it at an affordable price all around the world, then I think that's the mission we are trying to achieve.
But so obviously, like what you said, right, in Asia, not just in China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Asia, we've seen quite a lot of opportunistic sort of found, like I'm not sure if I would call them entrepreneurs or more like business people that try to capitalize on the current sort of catastrophic situation that everybody's facing right now. And it's interesting how you're taking it more from an impact approach, rather from like where most of the people that are trying to sell face masks today are actually trying to make money out of it. Did you face any backlash or criticism, or what are some of the challenges that you faced by offering a sort of free mask?
Well, I think the first 200,000 family masks, and by the way, these actually this is actually the B2B packaging, because we're trying to cut down on materials as well, right? The first 250,000 masks were all donated. Frankly, it technically is a loss-making business, right? We started a company and we donated 250,000 masks to a lot of hospitals and healthcare centers in the Greater China region. But that's the difference, I think, between an impact venture and a traditional venture capital fund, right? Yeah. We know we can make money. Everybody can make money, but why don't you want to do it in a more sustainable way? Yeah. In the sense where you also build a brand. Let me ask everyone in the audience, for example, right? Audience, because it's virtual, right? You can tell I'm used to speaking on stage, just like you, right? It's like the terms are still like, hey, I see you, I see y'all. Yeah. I mean, apart from 3M, do you know any other brands of masks in the world, right? Surgical mask is not known as a product. It's known as something in a hospital that's needed when you're sick. Yeah. Right? Or something you need. Oh, when you have surgery, you see all these, hot doctors and, male and female on TV, like in Grey's Anatomy, wearing these masks and still look sexy, right? I mean, it's never been something that needs to be globally branded. But I think we took the approach where, we did a bear, for example. Clearly, I chose my top to match this box, right? Because it's cute. And especially when children look at this box, they're like, oh, there's nothing intimidating about it, right? Unlike a lot of these white boxes with masks on it that looks like very medical, right? So our goal is not just to remove the stigma of wearing masks as something, for lack of a better word, unmasculine or not needed or, for medical use only, but to integrate it in some sort of a way where you're doing it because you love your family, you want to protect your family and your friends, and that's why you wear it.
Yeah.
So in some sense, again, the whole impact thing is not just about, again, donating. We donated 250,000 masks. We got, some orders from international chains, and we started building the business scratch, well, literally a mask at a time. We didn't
Yeah.
have a joke, as you can imagine, mask for mask, right? I'm like, oh, we're not going there. Right? I mean, the joke's right itself when it comes to surgical masks. So I think ultimately, as you said, it's about allowing people to know that even with the relatively small capital that is needed to start a surgical mask company, you can
Yeah.
actually create a much bigger impact with a much smaller, again, in terms of net dollars used, I think probably
Yeah.
for this entire family mask operation, it's probably less than a Series A round for most VCs in Silicon Valley. But every day I think as of today, we have sent out 12.5 million masks already. So
Wow.
hopefully we can say we, saved or prevented, tragedies in more than a few countries right now. So
Well, one life at a time, right? Especially
pretty
when
much,
you.
right?
What would you say? What are some of the sort of areas or target recipients for some of these masks that you are looking to donate to?
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I know I'm like people think a lot. Are you doing marketing or are you doing like a panel? But I want to show you this, right?
Yeah.
What do you think this is, right? It's it looks like a piece of paper or just with a family mask on it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But in essence, for example, when you wear masks, right? Put it on in the day, you go out. Sometimes you have to have coffee, sometimes you have to have lunch. This is actually a mask holder. So you see these ridges, right? You actually tie your mask on it and close it and put it in your pocket to protect the mask from being damaged. So that actually
I
you can use,
heard of a mask holder. I mean, it was
yeah,
like, like in Chinese culture, we have these red packets, and then
right,
there's
right, yeah, yeah.
folders as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, this is this, right? But you know why we started making these as well as part of our donations? Again, a lot of the doctors, we donate to healthcare organizations. Again, we are FDA approved, but we are not N95. I'll be very clear about that. There's no way any company could have done N95 masks in 3 months. It's just licensing wise, it's impossible. But we did the next best thing we can, which is to get FDA approved level 1 mask, which is 99.4% filtration. So I hope that's good enough for every day. So we're donating it to, for example, HIV and STD testing clinics all around the US right now.
Yeah.
Because,
And I would say
right,
that in many places they are happy just having a mask, access to a mask, because of the
right,
shortage. If you remember, I mean, since you mentioned back US, right,
right,
February, March, that was a huge need for mask in general of any type, if they can
right.
even get hold of. But I want to go back a little bit on that face mask holder, because that is probably something that
Mm,
most of our audience are
I mean,
not familiar about. And yeah, and I think with that, I mean, besides just looking cute,
right,
if you think about from the practicality point of view, right, it
right,
is it, because when you take out your mask and you are
right.
drinking, like you said, where do you put
Coffee,
it?
right,
Yeah, for a lot of people who carry bags, it's easy for them to put it inside the bags. But what if you didn't
right.
have a bag,
Yeah,
right? Which was when we go out for a quick smoke or
yeah,
a quick
yeah,
but what is
absolutely.
is that something that is commonly carried around in Hong Kong, so that you have a mask cover?
Well, I think as I said, surgical masks are hard to come by. So if we can provide something as simple as this, you can tell there's a little edge here, right? So you
Yeah.
actually we have instructions.
Oh,
In case someone doesn't understand how to tie a mask
that's
to a
probably like
piece of paper, right?
by
Again, right? You see it, right? It's easy as step 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. Because masks are hard to come by, and even frankly, if you can afford it and there's excess, you don't want to crumble it up every time you drink a coffee or have a smoke, or hopefully not smoke that much these days, right? Or have a meal. So this thing essentially makes sure it's safe for the whole day. So you're saving, I mean, again, these masks in Asia, I'll be honest, we have excess of inventory right now,
yeah,
right? In the US, do you think you can just go into Walgreens and buy a box of, FDA approved masks? Right now, you can't. So right now we're trying to use these type of things to reduce the actual amount of actual usage so we can send the surplus at cost or at a very small markup to the US within the startup community in a much wider platform so that everybody can have access to masks. I mean, the other thing we did, just to show you, right? Again, this is not about my impact or sustainability, but I feel like I'm in QVC. Is this what the US is? Like, I'm selling, a box of masks, like with a discount, right?
Yeah. No, it
So,
looks more infographic,
right?
informative.
Inform session, whatever. So we started launching these individually wrapped ones, right? So again, this is your standard B2B package of 25, and this is your individually wrapped ones. Why do you think we have individually wrapped ones? Because again, if you follow WHO or even Dr. Fauci, right? A lot of these masks should be worn when you're in close proximity with other people. So if you're in the open, you're driving, again, it's open air. You may not need to put this on yet when you leave the house. But where are you going to take this and where are you going to put it? Right? So unless you're smart enough to put it already in a box in this when you go out, or you just take this and you put it on when you actually need to. And during the day, you may not need to wear it. So then you don't waste a mask. Like, again, a lot of it sounds very petty and small, but a lot of the thinking behind this is to ensure that surgical mask is safety. Surgical mask is a rare item now, right? There is humongous demand versus little supply. So whatever we can do to ensure that no mask is wasted, I think that's one of the things as a startup impact, enterprise we should focus on.
Do you do more? I mean, beyond just sending the physical hardware over to people that need it?
Right.
Do you find yourself educating the general public on like proper sort of safety and all of that? How much how much of that need is required?
Well, to be honest, with the US, it's hard because it's a cultural thing now. It's no longer just, again, all the science you can say, all the experiments you can show test results on of, showing the difference between using a surgical mask and not using a surgical mask, it's all out there, right? There is more than enough news every day reminding people from experts, literally experts on CNN or Bloomberg, wherever they are. Even Dr. Fauci, as I said, reminding people that there is a scientific need. We just try to make it easier for people to wear it without, the stigma or access. So, by the way, this sounds silly, but we started our own hand sanitizer gel as well.
Product line. Is that the whole line of of protecting yourself?
Yeah, again, it's a family brand. Like, we send out care packages, into orphanages, and we actually put these things, and the kids look at them. They're like, "Oh my God, this is so cute!" And then it reminds them to look at the bear every day and clean their hands, right?
Yeah.
Again, using customer or psychology to make protecting yourself every day something as natural as brushing your teeth. Yeah, I think that's what we're really going with this. And lastly,
change the way culturally people look at mask and people look at sanitizing, keeping safe distance and all of that. So in terms of what about obviously it's easy for us to look at COVID-19 right now, right? Where do you see when things go back to sort of opening up and all of that, where would Family Mask be gearing towards?
Well, we started this impact venture not as a short-term business. Like, we're in there for the long haul.
If anybody would be impact startups, right? Because they usually look at 10 years, 20 years type of time frame.
Right. And again, I'm very proud to be part of the startup community in the sense where as an LGBT founder, the fact that we founded a company that is actually not just helping LGBT people, but globally. So I'm not sure Gus, we've actually launched, a global B2B and B2C e-commerce platform where we have members of StartOut and know as a fact, like ordering online just for $2.
Okay.
And then literally we work with DHL and we get them over to their door in 3 business days, right? Like, again, you ask us, why are we doing this? I mean, does it make money to build an infrastructure just to send 2 boxes at a time? Well, in a real business sense, no, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
But we're not talking about the real business sense now. We're talking about, again, sustainability in the new normal world. The new normal world where everybody who need masks can get their hands on masks is a sustainable world. And that should be the new normal world, right? Again, we are a manufacturer. We have our own logistics enterprise. We have our own e-commerce platform. All you have to do is go online and order. We have bulk-to-bulk discount rates with DHL or UPS or FedEx, which we don't charge you extra. Whatever they charge us, we charge you.
Okay.
In the end, I tell you, it will be cheaper, even if Walgreens end up stocking, these masks, for example, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine these on the store in CVS and Walgreens, which is something we're working on, by the way, right? Ordering from us direct will be cheaper than you going down to the store and buying it, because again, we're cutting out all middlemen, right? Not saying middlemen is not important in this world, but again, when it comes to crisis, when it comes to urgent needs, you need a solution which literally connects B directly to the C, essentially at cost. I tell myself, if I end up one day making 0.1 cents on each mask we sell, we're technically still a profitable startup. I mean, net of everything, don't get me wrong. But again, not 1 penny, 0.1 pennies per mask.
For a lot of impact startups, you can see return today because of you don't measure return based on dollar amounts, right? You will look at returns based on the change and the impact that you have on society as a whole.
Right. So
where do you see that going? Like because you are obviously launching new product lines as well.
right.
For the 5 to 10, like going forward, more sort of a long-term perspective, do you see like reaching out to more geographical locations, or is it more sort of diversified products?
Yeah, so currently we're shipping to 5 continents. Again, impact donation-wise and also B2B and B2C.
Yeah.
Sometimes, again, we're not spending any dollar in doing marketing, to be honest with you, because technically as a startup, if you have a product, you should do some marketing. But right now, every dollar to what's whoever community we need. So I think ultimately, apart from hospitals, which I don't want to get into because the whole healthcare system is a completely different animal, but again, you look at LGBT or healthcare community centers, right? Food banks, like social enterprises, schools, again, owners of sport games. The other day, I just had a call earlier and they said, hey, can you supply to Carnival and Celebrity Cruises? Because going forward, some people may feel comfortable knowing that in their room, there's a surgical mask waiting for them in case they need it, right? So going forward, there's humongous opportunity in some sense to really go down the non-hospital and healthcare, enterprises. But as I said, this is a long-term business. We're here to stay. And hopefully this fair, carries the spirit of, protecting people going forward. And again, we started this startup not thinking about fundraising and going through the series A, B, C and to sell. This is really something we're doing out of passion. Right. And wherever it takes us, who knows? But as I discussed with you earlier before this call, at least every day I know, between the two of us, we're actually saving lives. So that is nothing more, amazing, that type of feeling. And by the way, if anybody listening on this call has other ideas on how to work
together and collaborate and do things together, right?
Right. Again, if you know organizations that need these, frankly speaking, reach out to us because we're always happy to donate 10 boxes, 20 boxes, whatever it is, just to, again, we're not doing marketing. We're not doing ads on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. So we need our network to help each other. Again, by LGBT, for LGBT and beyond, because we're all family.
And there is a very, very great cause. So moving a little bit on the different sort of trying to help our audiences, because most of them are from the US and Europe. What is it like? Could you shed a light in terms of how is like the environment for the startup community over in Hong Kong and the neighboring countries? Because obviously you are advising a lot of LGBT startups in that region. how have they been impacted by this entire sort of COVID-19 situation?
Well, I think if you talk about the general startup community sense, clearly it's the universal rules apply, right? Everyone's running low on cash in some sense. Everyone's having struggling to connect to their key suppliers and partners, and more importantly, investors for some of them. So what we've done, is to work with a lot of LGBT founders of businesses in, I think, 6 or 7 countries in Asia, really to help them plan their, runway a bit better, so that they have, more leeway. We've actually absorbed some of their costs as well, because within our ecosystem within our impact venture, there are resources and tools which, we can outsource or, I guess, open source in many ways, for them to save money or save time on. So again, there's really no magic formula in how to help startups. But what we ended up doing is we finally pushed through, the major Hong Kong Startup Festival, which is happening in July now virtually. So
Okay.
again, we thank the government in some sense for still pushing forward this one, because then all the startups that did not have a chance to present on the original physical so-called conference in February will now have a chance in July. So again, connecting, using our internal networks, reaching out to StartOut to connect to more global, ecosystem partners, and essentially going back to, imagine the day when, well, you're younger than me, but imagine the day when I started investment banking and there were no such these platforms, everything, okay, not as bad as fax machines, let's put it that way, but still pretty old school. So we actually went back to that thing, going through the Rolodex and calling people and arranging meetings and stuff like that. Again, that's been done before 20 years, right? I mean, a lot of amazing startups became unicorns and billionaire companies in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So we're taking all these amazing lessons and applying it to 2020 new COVID world, just to give these startups, a fighting chance. So that's what we're
Awesome.
doing.
What would be, so we're running a little bit out over time, but as sort
Right,
of my last questions is, what
right,
is your advice as an impact investor, but also as somebody who is so involved with mentoring startups in
right.
and actually you do work with many founders in the US region as well,
Right.
who sort of make it through the COVID-19 and dealing with the current environment.
Right. I mean, again, I'm not going to go, sappy and say passion and, follow your heart, because I think
Uh,
everybody knows that deep down, right? At least from COVID, I think, and this is, again, may not be the most politically correct way to say things, but knowing me, everyone, it's like, I don't really filter much anymore. I think if you continue to live the same way of life before and after COVID, you're really missing out on what has happened as a potential transformative moment for you as an individual, right? Again, I'm not out asking you to, of United Nations development goals, right? But definitely do look at the pain points of your daily life as you go through COVID, because frankly speaking, the new normal will feature a lot of the same pain points, not just for you, but for other people as well. And that's where, again, like Family Mass, it's a COVID driven pivot story, right? And I hope that all of
yeah.
you dig really deep down and say, hey, how has my life changed? What is happening going forward in the next 2 years anyways? How can I use that pain, of not being able to see families, because of social distancing and other rules, and turn that into a energy and
Yeah.
fire and passion to launch something as simple like our very, very tiny Family Mass company.
So sort of to add on that, like I love what you just said, because we as founders, especially startup founders, we are always about moving forward, and it's always about charging, charging, and charging. But then what you just said is about reflection, right? There's
Right.
a not in a point in time where, I mean, physically we've been confined to limitations. Where this is if you're not gonna reflect now on some of the things that you could do better or some of the things in the past, when else are you going to reflect on, and this is probably the right sort of environment that is sort of accidentally being created. Thank you so much, that was great advice. So as
Thank
a sort of
you.
closing remark, we sort of ran out over time. for 10 minutes, I just want to give a shout out, and I want to thank you, Kenneth, because our team at the eLaunchpad, we've been wanting to like sort of give back to the community, and work more on in terms of the startup community. And one of my main missions this year is to try to grow the sort of startup presence here in Southeast Asia. So thank you to thanks to Family Mask, Kenneth, and support and all of that. Together we are actually going to be donating some of the masks to US startups. So
All right. Well, Todd, you're actually looking at the 6 boxes.
those are the boxes, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, maybe I could hide inside one of those boxes and you can ship me over. Uh, But
all
yeah,
right.
and if you are a startup and you are in an area, a region, especially like San Francisco or some of the California region, where they're opening up, and you find yourself short of mask, email us. Either email Kenneth. Would you like to share your email as well?
I'm sure we can do a chat later, right? Or some follow up.
Yeah, after just
Right.
reach us at elaunchpad.com, and I'll connect you with Kenneth, and let us know how we can help you.
No, and thank you to Eat Launchpad as well, right? Because again, the whole purpose of this exercise is if there's any LGBT individual in the world that needs this, we
Yeah.
have a proven way to get this to them in 3 days or 4 days through DHL. So let's take that stress away from our daily lives of worrying what to do when we have to go out without protection. Again, the joke spins itself on the word protection, which I'm not going to go into, but
Yeah.
this is important these days, and PrEP cannot take this away right now, unfortunately. So regardless of what, all jokes aside. So again, thank you so much everyone for joining in.
Kenneth,
Whatever we can do as a community, let's all help out each other. So
you've been great, a great guest. We gained so many insights, and I will be having other recordings in the future. And some of those founders would love to talk to some of your network of founders, especially the ones that might have an interest to want to be affiliated as well with StartOut. So once again, I just want to close it up. Stay safe, everyone, and I will be seeing you very soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.